Hello everyone, welcome to Learn It. Today I'm going to discuss about Python. So which Python? So I'm going to discuss about obviously Python programming language. So before discussing about Python programming language, first we will look why Python programming language. We have many languages like C, C++, Java, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, etc. We have many languages. So why you should learn Python? So first we will see when Python came into existence. So Python came into existence in the year of 1980. You know who is the inventor of Python? So the Python inventor is Guido van Rossum. So why Guido van Rossum created Python? So there was C already when Guido van Rossum was there. He was using C language. So whenever he used to write in C language, it was pretty tough to remember. It's not tough, but it is tough for beginners like us, people who don't know programming. So it was pretty tough. So he thought of inventing a language, creating a language which is user friendly, and he also wanted to create a language which also makes common users to get interested in programming. So this was his aim. So he was keen in this, and he started working on Python, and finally he developed Python. Python was from 1980s, but it was not that much popular. Even Java was there, but Python was not popular at that time. Eventually the days passed, and 2000, 2005, 2010, 2015, the time was passing. So Java is mostly used, but Python is overcoming Java. So Python is a general purpose programming language. So Python is a general purpose programming language. We can use literally Python for anything. Like we can use Python for scripting, we can use Python for programming. So why is Python climbing the ranks and getting into the first position, beating Java, one of the most renowned programming language? So it is climbing the ranks. So first we will see why it is climbing the ranks and going to the first position by beating Java, C, C++ and everything. It went all up because of AI. So you know AI, artificial intelligence. So what which language do we use? So what do you think, which language do we use in artificial intelligence? Obviously we can use Java, we can use Python, but we will use only Python. Mostly everyone will use Python because Python is simple. You can write codes or programs very simply. Like if you want to write hello program in Java, it will take some lines, but in Python you just write hello, it hello. So that's how much easy Python is. So learning some languages that are too tough like Java and again implementing in AI, it's senseless. So what they did is they chose one language. So Python, as it was simple, its syntax was simple, it is easy to write, and the lines of code was reduced. It also, if the lines of code is reduced, then the memory will be reduced. So it became easy. Python was easy, so they adopted Python. So Python is used in AI, used in data science. Python is used in everything like in 20. As if you are a programmer, or if you want anything, if you want to go to programming side, you Python is a must learn language. Java is also a must learn language, but I love Python. Python is very simple. Once I start teaching you Python, you will feel wow, this is Python, I want to learn Python. You won't feel programming as boring when you learn in Python, but in Java you will definitely feel it boring, but in Python it's not the case. You will feel very, very, very interesting. So this is what Python is. Don't you feel Python is very cool? So we can use it in AI. Yeah, you know, artificial intelligence, that is a big talk nowadays. So if you want to learn artificial intelligence, then you should know Python. There is no way that you can skip Python. If you want to do some innovation, you should learn Python now. So this is how much cool Python is. So if you want to go for data science, you must learn Python. If you want to go for AI, you must learn Python. So Python you must learn. So I will be teaching complete Python in my YouTube series. So you can keep following my channel for Python videos. I will be teaching Python from scratch. You don't need to be a programmer, or you don't need to be knowing programming before. So you can learn Python from my videos, even though if you are not a CSE student, if you are even a 10th class kid also learn Python. That's how easy Python is. So it is not complicated like C, it is not complicated like Java or anything. So Python is very simple. That's what I wanted to say. So what I'm gonna teach in Python. So Python, I will teach Python. So I will, after completing Python, I will surely teach AI and data analysis. So after Python, I will be learning AI. So I request you to follow my YouTube series on Python. So this is about all about Python. So what is Python? So which type of programming language is it? As you know, if you are from Java background, you may know that Java is a object oriented programming language. So what is Python? So is Python is also a object oriented programming language, or is it not? So Python is an object oriented programming language. Wow, that's great. So what is an object oriented programming language? So object oriented programming language, we will see it later. So before discussing object oriented concepts and everything, we must know what type of language Python is. So generally Python is a scripting language you can use for scripting. So what is scripting? So scripting is nothing but you write scripts to do some tasks for you. So it's like automation. So you can do automation with Python. So Python is an object oriented programming language like Java, and also a procedure oriented programming like language like C. So Python is mostly inspired by C. So why did the author give the name as Python? So why? Anyone knows that? So he gave the name as Python because it's not because he loved Python. It's not because the name is so stylish. He gave the name Python because of one TV show that he liked so much. So there was one TV show, and Guido Van Russen was big fan of that TV show, and the TV name of the TV show is Monty Python Flying Circus. So Guido Van Russen was big fan of that TV show, so that he named the programming language is as Python. So the Python name is so stylish. So this is all about Python system. Today I'm gonna show you how to install Python, and how Python looks, and how to write a code in Python. So yesterday we talked about the history of Python, what Python is, how Python came, and who created Python. So today we are gonna install it. So as we know that Python is an object-oriented programming language, as well as Python is procedure-oriented programming language. So to download and install Python, first you must download Python. So click on Python. You can see welcome to python.org. So python.org is the official website for downloading Python. You can click on downloads. So you can download Python here. Click on download. So here you can download it. So the current version of Python is 3.8.2. So after downloading, you can. So here you can see Python. So here you can see Python file. So double click on it. So click on install now. Yes, and it will take some time for installing. Getting the setup, you will get setup was successful. Close it. Go to the programs and search Python. So you can see Python IDLE. So we have to use Python IDLE. So if you want to do addition operation, just click 2 plus 3, 2 minus 3. You will get the output. It is as simple as that. So this is about arithmetic. So one thing is important. When you type 3 by 3, so the output is 1.0. So 1.0 is a float type value. So if you want integer type value, we have to do integer division in Python. So 3 double slash 3, it will give integer division. So this is all about arithmetic operators, and we will see about Python strings in Python. So I want to print something, hello. So it won't work because it's not recognized, it's not a format. If you want to print a string, you have to include in either single quotes or double quotes. So this one will work and this one will also work. So we are getting hello in single quotes, so we don't want to get hello in single quotes, so we just use print statement hello. So if you have learned some programming languages like C, here we use it to put semicolon. In Python we don't need any semicolon, and here we can use single quotes as well as double quotes. It's a user's wish. So this is the difference if you use print statement and without print statement. So we will see how we can print a string in different ways. Write print statement, and I want to type something. How I want to type. So if you want to type, how is it? So if you are using it, it won't work because it is not a valid syntax. So if you want to differentiate, you have to use single quotes or double quotes. So it is working. So you can keep outside as single quotes, and in middle you can use double quotes. So it will come, and we can also type like this. So I have double quotes, and I want the single quotes also to be printed, so you can use it. So in this way you can print the text. So we will see further more topics in the next session.
Learn it. Today I'm gonna teach you about topics of Python. So this is the part 3 of Python. So we are gonna proceed today with double quotes, single quotes, and triple quotes in Python, and also data types in Python, and input and output functions of Python. So let us proceed with it. So we have single quotes. We have single quotes like this, and we have double quotes, and we have triple quotes also. So why these are used? So single quotes and double quotes in Python are used for the same purpose, but triple quotes in Python are used when we are writing multiple lines and multiple paragraphs. Then these triple quotes are used. So this is the difference between single quotes, double quotes, and triple quotes in Python. So let us proceed with data types. So data types in Python. So what are the different data types in Python? So first we will go with numbers. So in this we have integer type and float type, and also complex type, and also we have strings, and we also have list, tuple, and dictionary, and also we have arrays in Python also. We will discuss about these three data types in later part. First we will focus on this. Now we will discuss numbers and strings. So in strings there are character, there is a character type data type, and string type data type also. But in Python we don't have any character type. Even if you enter a character as a data type, it will take it as a string only. So there are only strings in Python. So let us see. int. So integer type is nothing but normal integer like 1 2 3 or minus 3. So float is nothing but a float value like 1.5 2.5 3.5, and complex is nothing but it will include the complex numbers. So 3 plus 4i, it is a complex number. So these are the different integer types, and we will see strings. So strings are nothing but sequence of characters. So if you enter hello, so this is a string. So we will also discuss about the concepts of variables. So what are variables? So a variable is nothing but something which holds the value. So a equal to 5. So a is a variable which holds the value of 5. So this is what variable is. So we will see input and output functions in Python. Whenever a programming language comes, we must know the input and output functions, how to take input and how to present it as output. So for printing output, we use the print function. So this is to show output, and to take input, we use input function. So this is input. So to print output to a screen, we just have to write print hello, and here you can use single quotes or double quotes, it's your wish, and you don't have to use any semicolon. And then input. So input is like enter your name. So when you give this command in on the screen, it will display enter your name and waits for you to input your name. So input is nothing but it's like taking value from the user. So enter your name. So in this command waits for you to enter your name, and whenever you enter your name, then the command will execute. So basically input in Python is string type. So whatever you enter, it will take a string type. So if you enter 9, it will be treated as string. If you enter 5, it will be again treated as string. Even if you enter ABC, it will be treated as string. So if you want to do addition of two numbers like 9 plus 5, you have to convert this input, do typecasting for this input, and convert this input into integer type. So this is how we use input function in Python. So we will discuss examples on these functions. So in Python we can assign variables, multiple variables also, like we can assign a equal to 5 or a comma b equal to 5 comma 6. So this is also possible in Python. We can also insert multiple variables like 5 6 7. So this is how we can assign variables in Python.
About the practical part of functions, data types, and variables. So let us start. So I am opening the Python shell. So this is part 4 of Python. So this is the Python shell. You have to install Python to work with it. So first we will go with variables. You can assign values to variables. A equal to 5. So when you type a, you can get the value of a every time. So this is these are called variables which stores the values. So you can assign values like this also. A equal to 6 comma 5. So it will work. When you press a, you will get 6. When you press b, you will get 5. So this is about assigning variables. We will go to print function. So print function, you have to write print, and you can use single quotes, double quotes, or triple quotes, it's your wish. So I want to print its Python. So you have to close the double quotes also, and you don't have to insert any semicolon in this. So press enter, it will show the output. So this is print function. So we will also see about the input function. So it will ask you to enter your name. You can enter anything. So you can also use backslash n
to give go to next line. So this is how input works. Input stores only string format. So how to write scripts in Python shell. So to write scripts in Python shell, you have to write it in, go to new file and select the new file. Write your code. So I am printing my channel name. So while writing in this notepad new file, we have to write the complete script. So we can print whatever written in input. So input first this input. So the flow goes like this. First this input will ask you the name. Whenever you enter the name, it will be stored in the variable called a, and you can print the variable a. So you have to save it. You have the default format of saving Python files is .py. So even if you save in normal format, it will work. So it will default here. You can see the save type as a Python file. So it will defaultly take it as a .py format. So the file will be created. So to run this file, you can go and click with open with Python. You can run it in a command prompt. Type cmd in the search bar. You will get cmd, and just go to the folder where you have saved it. So the folder where I saved it is in desktop. So you can type de, cd means change directory. You can type de and tab, it will give the full name. So you are in desktop now, and you have to type the file name and tab, half file name and tab. So click enter. So it will ask what is your channel name. So I will enter my channel name. It will print my channel name. So this is a simple program to take input and print something onto the screen using script. So these things we are now doing in notepad, but generally we don't use notepad to do this. So we will use some IDEs. So what does IDE mean? It is called an integrated development environment. So whenever you want to write some scripts, you will be writing very big scripts. So you must use an IDE to write the scripts. So there are many IDEs like Atom and Edit Plus and many more. But PyCharm is one of the best IDE that we can use. So in the next tutorials, we will see how to install PyCharm. So this is PyCharm. This is how it looks. Here you can write the code, and here you can see the output. So in the next sessions, we will discuss about PyCharm. So this is our first script. Let us write another script and show you the different how the input actually works. So here I wrote a program for input. So in this program I will add two numbers. I will take input from A and I will take input from B, and then add them both. So we will see how the output will get. Definitely it won't add these two numbers. It will consider these two numbers as string. So we have made some changes. So go to command prompt, open it, and go to the path where you saved the file. So cd change the directory to desktop, where change the directory to the path where you saved. Here I saved in desktop, so I'm using desktop. So or else you can do like you can type cd and mention the complete path where you have saved the file. So you can do like that also. So I'm changing it to desktop, and then I will type the program name, and you have to type the .py extension in the command prompt to open the file in command prompt. So it will ask you to enter A. So I will enter 1, and it will ask to enter B. I will enter 1 again, and see the output is 11. So why it is 11? So it is treating this A1 and another one as both as strings, not as numbers. It is adding them as strings, not as a number. So let's open with IDLE. So see here. So I'm adding so this plus sim plus operator, it is called arithmetic operator. It can be used for various purposes. As we are considering these two things as strings, it will concatenate them instead of adding them. So what I want to say is input will always take user input as a string, not as a number. So to take to convert this as number, we have to do typecasting, and we have to mention to do typecasting, you have to mention into which type you are going to convert it. So here I'm gonna convert it into int. So now it will take it as integer. So I saved the program, and again I will open the program, run it. So 1 1, so the answer is 2. So now it took the input as integer, as we have typecasted. So if you want to typecast it into a float, keep here as float and typecast it to float. So it's your wish. So this is about input function. So now we are gonna see about list. So the symbol of list is declared by this, declared like this, like two square brackets. So it is called list in Python. So a list can have different data types. Like so you know what is a data type? Data type is like integer, float, string, or anything. So a list can have an integer and a floating number and a string also. So let us see how we will use list. So I am writing, so I am filling some numbers, 1 2 3 4. Index based retrieving. So you can retrieve the number which is in first position. So the number in first position is 2. So here in list, the index numbering starts from 0 0 1 2 3 4. So this is how indexing number starts. So number index number of 1 will be 0. So this is how we can do indexing with this. So we will write another variable, like we will I will introduce different data types in this. So one, and we have different data types here. First one is a integer, and second one is string, and third one is a float data type. So it will accept all these three values, and we can retrieve it using indexing. So at index number 0 we have 1, and at index number 1 we have learn it. So it will retrieve all those things. So strings in Python are immutable because I will show you why these are immutable. So I will assign a string called YouTube u. So and I want to make it as YouTube. So 0 to 2. I want to make it as 2. So it won't work because strings in Python are immutable. So these are all about strings. So we will discuss some of the inbuilt functions of lists, tuples, and sets. So most of them will be same for lists, tuples, and sets. So list first. So I will assign some variable var equal to abc 1 3.5. What are the inbuilt functions that are available for list? So we have append. See how append works. So you can type append, and then you can append. So what append does is it will append the list. So I will show you exactly how it will append the list. So type 40 here. Okay, wait, the syntax, you have to close it and type it, and again see what are there in var. You can see 400 is added. So append will always add at the end of the list. So this is how append works. So let us see another thing called insert. So insert, how it will work and how the syntax is. So first insert will insert in the specific position. So I want to insert in first position. So the indexing always starts with You know how the indexing starts with it always starts with 0. So I inserted 3 in the first position, so 0 1 first position, 3 is added. So this is how insert works, and we will see remove. So remove. So in remove you have to give the number which you want to remove. So I want to remove 400. So 400 will be removed from the list. So this is how remove works. Pop option. So this is a pop option. So one. So what does pop option does? It will pop out the element present in the index. So in index 1, 1 is present. So it will pull out 1. So pop means it will be pulling out the element equal to 1, 2, 3. So I want to extend. So why we use extend option? Extend is to implement multiple for adding multiple values into the list. Like, so the syntax of using extend is, first you have to use the normal bracket, and inside that you have to use square bracket and insert the values that you want to insert. So I want to insert these values, so this will be inserted. So extend will always introduce the values at last only. So explore all these options, you can use help option. So help, okay, you have to use help function. So what type of help you want? So I want help on lists. So you have to double click it to open. So it will show all the list of things you need. So if you press star, star operator will be described, and if you want to see what all topics are present, you can type topics here and see what are the topics and go into the topics. Like, you can copy the name of the topic and go into the topic. So here you can see, and we have to see lists, as you can type lists here, double click these squeezed lines. You will see how to use these lists list functions, append, copy, and you can see all the examples here. So this is how you can make use of help function to see all these. Is the symbol for tuples. So it is, say, it's just a parenthesis. So parenthesis is symbol for tuples. So how we denote tuples? So tuples 1, 2, 3. So this is how we write tuples here. So you can you do index based? Can we do index based accessing? Yeah, we can do index based accessing in tuples. And what is the difference between tuples and lists is index iteration is fast in tuples compared to lists. So now we will move to set. So not set with the two flower brackets. So this is called a set. So what is set? Generally, set is a collection of unique elements. So what does unique elements means? So we will see an example of set. So it is a set 1, 1, 2, 3. Sets index based accessing is not possible is because sets do not have any index numbers. The index numbers are totally random, so index based accessing is not supported in sets. So this is all about sets. So far we have covered lists, tuples, sets. So here you can also see that I indicated set as 1 1 2 3, but I retrieved 1 2 3 only. So I will type set again. So you are getting only the unique elements. The elements that are repeated are not getting listed here. So this is what the difference in set is. So the indexing is random and they do not follow any sequence. So indexing is not possible in sets. So this is all about sets. So we will also discuss about strings in Python. So strings in Python are immutable. So what does immutable means? Immutable means you cannot change the value, and mutable means you can change the value of the string. So let us see how we will indicate string in Python. So you can use single quotes or double quotes. It's your wish. So type name, you will get YouTube, and then you can also do index based accessing using this. So you, so you will get the alphabet at first index. So you can also do this one. So you can, so what does this mean? This means that you can select alphabets from index 0 to 2. So from 0 to 2, 0 is y, 1 is o, and up to not second 0 second 2 is not selected, because it will select only two values. 0 to 2 means it will select only two values. So that's about indexing in strings. So this is about strings. So today we will discuss about loops in Python. So what are loops in Python? We have conditional loops and for loops in Python. So we will see, first we will see what is a conditional loop. If is called conditional loop. So we have if else loop, and we also have for loop. We also have if and elif loop. We have while loop. We have do while loop. So we will be discussing about these loops in Python. So first we will go with if loop. So we will go with the syntax of if loop in Python. So syntax of if loop follows like this. First we have to write if, and we have to write the condition, and we have to use this colon. So if you are from a C or Java language, you will be using flower brackets to open and close. But in Python we will use this indentation, like colon we have to use at last, and we have to write below the colon only. So I am writing, here you have to write your code. So this is, you don't have to put any semicolon or anything. So this is the syntax of if loop. So we will see the syntax of if else loop in Python. So this is if, and we have to write the condition, and then you can write your code here, and we have to write here else, and again colon, and again code here. So we can't write else here, because if else loop should be followed by if loop. So if there is a if loop, then we will have else loop. So this is how we will write. So we will go with the syntax of if and elif loop. So if condition colon code, and here you have to write elif condition code. So code must be here. So this is how we can use elif loop. You can like write a number, n number of elif loops in this if loop. So and there is another thing called nested if. So if condition code, again if, again if condition code. So this if loop is inside the if loop. So this is called nested if loop. We can write n number of nested if loops, and we will go with the for loop syntax. So syntax for loop is for variable in range 1 to 10. So here I am mentioning some range, and colon here. So for variable in range, so we have to use a, in this place of variable, we have to use a variable like I, X, MN. So you know what variable is. So you can use a variable instead of this writing like this, and you have to write your code here. So this is how we will use for loop. So I will give an example for loop. So for I in range 1 to 10. So this loop repeats from 1 to 10. So this will be in loop up to 1 to 10. So this is how for loop works. And yeah, we have covered the syntax of most of the loops. So we will see while loop also. So while condition colon and again code, and you have to terminate this. So termination condition I variable plus one variable plus plus. So if you use I as variable, you can use I plus plus. So this is how while loop work. Today we will discuss if loop, if else loop, for loop in detail, and we will write some programs based on if loop, for loop, if else loop, and else if loop in Python. So let's see how to write programs based on this. So you have to use an IDE. So the IDE that we are going to use is called PyCharm. So you have to download PyCharm from this website. You can click on download. It will open the website. So professional version is not a free one, and you have to pay for the professional version. Community version is a free one and open source. So you can download this community version. So you have to download and install it. I have already installed Python PyCharm. So it is very simple installing PyCharm. You have to keep on clicking next, and here it will appear like this after installing. And you have to create new project, and you have to click create. It will start creating the project for you. It will take some time. This you can click close, and then you have to create a new Python file. So here it is a Python file, and name that Python file. So I will name it as demo. So you can write your code here. So we will discuss a program on how to find even numbers and odd numbers. So this is how we write the program. First we have to take input from the user. So we use input function to take the input from the user, and we have to write if condition of the even number. So the condition for even number is if any number is divisible by 2, then it is called even number. So we have to write that condition in using if loop. So this is called modulus operator. So when we use modulus operator, it will give us the output as remainder. So whenever a number is divided by 2, it will give its remainder. If its remainder is equals to 0, then it is divisible by 2. And then you have to print. So if the number is divisible by 2, then we have to print the number is even, or else we have to use else loop. If it is not divisible by 2, then number is odd. So this is a simple program to find the even and odd numbers. So the program flow goes like this. First user enters the input, and the input will be stored in the variable called num, and we will divide that num by 2, and we will get the remainder. If the remainder is equals to 0, then the number is even. If the remainder is not equal to 0, then else loop will come into picture, and it will print that the number is odd. And you can run the code like this. Go to run demo and run. So here I will enter the number 20. So 20 is a even number. So answer is even. So we will check for odd number also. I will enter 3. So 3 is an odd number. It will give the output as 3 is odd number. So this is how we use if else loop. So we will see an example of if and elif loop. So I am going to describe this example with a calculator program. This is when we write anything after a hash in Python, it is called as comment. So it won't be included in the program. Then first in this program we have to take two inputs, that is the two numbers that you want to add. First I will take the input from input for first number, and second I will take input for second number and store it in B. and first numbers will be stored in A. We are doing typecasting here because we are taking integer type value, so we have to do typecast. As a string only accepts only string value, so we have to typecast into integer value, and then we have to enter the choice that we want. So here we are not using it doing typecasting because input will automatically take string as an input, string as input, so we don't have to do any typecast here. Store this choice into the choice variable. So if the choice is equals to plus, it will do addition. If choice else if choice is equals to minus, it will do subtraction. And then again, if you want another operations also, you can perform using it. So again, you can use an elif loop. So the next choice will be, you can use another elif loop. So first in the program, it will check the condition. If I enter plus, it will check where is the plus in the program. If it is present in here, this if loop will be executed. If plus is not present here, then elif loop will be executed. And again, if plus is not present in the second elif loop, it will go to the third one. And again, if it is not present in the third one also, it will go to the fourth elif loop. So this is how this program works. Let us see and run the program. So I will enter the value of A as 2 and B as 2, and I will enter the operation choice as plus. So it will give me the output of 4. Check for another value also. So I will enter 3 and again 3, and my choice of operation is division. So you will get the answer as 1.0. So this is how this calculator program works. So we will see the example for loop. So this is a simple pattern program to describe how the for loop works in Python. So first we will take the number of rows and columns that has to be printed on the screen from the user, and we will typecast it because we are taking the input as integer, so we are typecasting it. After that, we have to write for loop. So you know for loop syntax, for, and you have to write the variable. And I choose the variable as I, and you have to mention the range of the variable. So I mentioned the range as n because we are taking the input from the user. And again, for j in, another I made a loop inside a loop, and I made and again the range is n. So as I have to print star, I have mentioned print star, and this end equal does is it will print the star after the another star. Instead of printing in the next line, it will print in the same line. It will print the star in the same line. So this is why we use end equal to. So we will see how it will print with and without end. So first I will run the program without end equal to, and you can see every star will be printed vertically. If we want horizontally, the star should be printed horizontally. We want 5 rows and 5 columns. Then we will use end equal to. So what this end equal to does is that it will print stars after the one. It will print stars one after another. It will print vertically. So you can see the output. We will get five five stars in row column one, and 5 stars in row two. This is how the for loop works in Python. Today we will discuss the topic of functions in Python. So what are functions in Python? Why functions in Python? So as I said before, that Python is an object oriented programming language, as well as it is a procedure oriented programming language also. So as it is a procedure oriented language, programming language, we have functions in Python. So why do we need functions? So first of all, we should know what are functions. So functions are nothing but a block of statements which consist of code. So why do we use functions? Functions are used for easy debugging. Like you can debug the code easily. Functions are used for easy debugging. Code can be reusable. So I will show you why code can be reusable in functions. So let us go with functions. So write programs in functions. We have two things like function definition, and second thing is function call. So function definition is nothing but we are defining a function. We use so when we are defining a function, we use function definition. So when we are calling a function, then we use function call. So we will see how to define a function. So to define a function, you must start the function with the definition keyword. So the keyword is def. You have to give a name to the function. So we call it as function name, and parameters to the function. You can pass some parameters to the function, or you can leave this as empty. You can do two things with in this parenthesis, and you have to use colon. So we use colon instead of flower brackets. So in other programming languages we use flower brackets, but in Python we use colon. So colon, and you have to write your code. So after writing your code, you have to call the function. You have to write the function call here. So this is function definition. Here we write function call. So we will see a small program to understand this concepts of functions. So I am writing a add function. So this function, what this function does is it will add two numbers. So I will first to write a function, we have to use def keyword, and I will give the function name as add, and I won't pass any parameters here. So and I won't pass any parameters here, and you have to mention colon, and then you have to write your code. So my code is, first I will take input from user, enter a, so enter a, and then I will again take another input from user, enter b. So we have, so we took a and b as input, and we have to add these two, c equal to a plus b. So we have added these two inputs also, and then this is called function definition. To call this function, we just have to mention add. If we mention add, it will call this function. So this is the complete program. This is function call. So I will say the working flow of this program. So first whenever we click the execute the program, then it will see the add function. It will call the function that has been defined on this name. So it will go here and it will execute this program, and you will get the output. So this is how this program works. So we will see the types of arguments in functions. There are four types of arguments. One is required arguments, and second one is keyword arguments, and third one is default arguments. Fourth one is variable length arguments. So first we will go with the required arguments. So the definition goes like this: number of arguments in function call should be same as function definition. Position should be followed. So what it says is like here we have function definition, and here we have function call. So the number of arguments inside definition and number of arguments inside a function call should be same. So you can see that here are two arguments in the function definition and two arguments in the function call. So you must have the same number of arguments in function definition and function call. Whatever the argument in this position will be assigned to the same position in the function definition. Like if for example we have 10 here, and 10 will be assigned only to a, not to b, and 20 will be assigned only to b. So this is how required arguments works. And then we have keyword arguments. So keyword arguments will match based on keywords. Order or position is not required. So initialization will be done based on the keywords. Here we have function definition, and we have function call here. So function call, how in this program we have a comma b. In this, in a function call we mentioned b equal to 20 and a equal to 10. So what this does is, this b equal to 20 will be assigned to b and a equal to 10 will be assigned to a only. So as the name itself says, keyword arguments, based on the keywords it will identify the arguments and it will take the arguments. So this is how keyword arguments works. And then we have default arguments. So number of arguments need not to be same. Some of arguments will be considered as default arguments. So here we have the example: definition, display name, comma. This is the program, and then we are calling the definition. So here we wrote the function call: name equal to abc, course equal to mtech. So how this program works: so the name will be name will be printed as abc, the output will be abc and mtech. So it won't take this btech as default, and here we will see another function call. So display name equal to pqr. So it will take name equal to it will, so the output for this program is name will be printed as pqr, but course will be the course will be taken by default. So btech will be taken by default and the output will be pqr and btech. So this is how the default argument works. So we have variable length arguments. These are arguments in which we want multiple we can mention multiple arguments, like here we have wrote a function definition display star courses. So here if we have to indicate star to take all the arguments in the function. So here we, in the function call, we have btech, mtech, mca, mba. We have four arguments. It will take 4 arguments and courses. So all the courses print I. So it will display all the courses using this program. So this is how we will use variable length arguments. And so we will see the recursive function. So this is a small program to demonstrate recursive function. So we have wrote a definition and we have wrote the function call. So this is the function call and it is the function definition. So we will see how the program works. So first the program will ask you for the input. This will be executed and is equal to fact of n. So it will go to the function definition. So here we can see function definition. If n equal to 1 or n equal to 0, it will execute. So let us suppose so we will enter the value n equal to 5. So first it will go here and it will go to the definition, and so as we have n equal to 5, it will check here, check the condition here. If n equal to 1 or n equal to 0, it will execute this. As n is 5, it won't go to the if loop, so it will come to the else loop and it will return n. So it will return 5 and factorial of n minus 1. So that means factorial of 5 minus 1, that is 4. So again factorial of 4, it will go to the definition and again it will check 4 is equals to 1. No, it is false. So it will again come to the else loop and 5 into again return 4 into fact of 3. 5 into 4 into fact of 3. Again it will again it will repeat the same for the fact of 3, and 3 is not equal to 1 and it will execute else loop. So we will get 5 into 4 into 3 into fact of 2. So fact of 2 will be again repeated and we will get 2 is not equals to 1, so it will execute else loop and again we will get 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into fact of 1. So fact of 1, so it will again go to the loop, and if n equal to 1, so 1 equal to 1. So if loop is true for this, and it will return 1 and exit of the loop. So we will get 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So this will be stored in the result variable and result variable will be printed. This is how we will write recursive function. This is how today we will see object oriented programming in Python. Let us start with object oriented programming in Python. In object oriented Python programming, we have classes, objects and methods. So these are the three main things, and the concepts in object oriented programming in Python are: first we will go with inheritance, we have abstraction, polymorphism, encapsulation. So these are the concepts that we are going to discuss in Python object oriented programming. In object oriented programming language, everything is treated as an object. For example, this pen is treated as an object, this book is treated as an object. In object oriented programming language, we have class, object, methods. So class is nothing but a blueprint and object is nothing but a reference for this class. So we will see how this works. First, to declare a class, we have to use class in front of the class name. So class and the class name colon, and here you can declare variables, and here you can have methods. You have to write definition and method. In functions we use this def as function. In object oriented programming language, we call these functions as methods. So here you should write method name and bracket parenthesis. Inside the parenthesis, self is declared. Even if you don't declare as self, it will automatically declare it as self and colon. So this is the syntax of declaring a class and variables. The variables which are declared inside a class and outside a method are called instance variables. The variables which are declared within these methods are called local variables. So main difference between local and instance variables is instance variables can be used throughout the program, and local variables can only be used in that method itself. So let us see one demo program for this class. And if you want to access this class name, first we have made a blueprint. To access this class, we need to create an object for this class. So to create an object, here you have to mention any name. The name is your wish. You have to write the class name here, class name and parenthesis. So if you want to access any variables in this class, you have to use this C to access. So we will see a sample program to understand this. So class, I am writing a student class. Here the class name is student, and I will declare some instance variables. A student will have a roll number. Here I am declaring a variable called roll number. So the roll number is 1. I am declaring it as 1. ID of the student as 1 2 3 4, and then I am writing some methods inside it. Definition, we have to use this def keyword, and then write the method name. So I will write the method name as read and colon. So I am writing a print statement in it, reading. We created a class. To access this class, we have to create a reference. I will create a reference as S1, student 1, and we have to declare the class name here like this. This is the way we should declare. and we can use as many references for the same class. We can use this same class multiple times, and to access the student class we have to use this reference. So s1 is our reference, and I want to access rule number s1 dot r number. We have to use like this, and if you want to print this, you have to include it in a print statement. To access id, we have to use s1 dot id, and you can access all these using this and print this. While accessing methods, you can access just by s1 dot read. We'll move on to the topic of inheritance. So in inheritance we have different types of inheritance. First one is single level inheritance. Second one is multi-level inheritance, and third one is hierarchical inheritance. Fourth one is multiple inheritance. So these are the four types of inheritance we have. Multiple inheritance is possible in Python. In inheritance we have parent class or base class, and we also have derived class. As the word itself says, that parent class is the parent of the derived class. Parent class is also called as base class. Parent class properties are all can be derived from the derived class. Now we will see a few examples based on inheritance. First we will go with single level inheritance. We have base class and derived class. Base class is the class which is called as parent class, and derived class is the class which derives the properties from its parents. So here is a simple program to describe single level inheritance. So we have a class, and the class name is parent. So this is the class name parent, and we have a method in it, display method, and I printed something called parent in this. We have wrote a child class, and the name of the child class is child. To perform inheritance in Python, you have to write the parent class in the parentheses. So here the parent class is parent, so I am writing a parent class in the parentheses. And again the child class also consists of a method called show, and we have printed child in this. To access something, to access a class, we have to have a reference. We have to create an object to access this class. So to create an object, the syntax I already said. First you have to write the object name and the class name with parentheses. We have created a child class. We have created a reference for object for child class, and using this reference we can access both the properties that are present in the child class and parent class. In inheritance, if we create object for child class, it is equivalent of creating object for its parent class. So we can access this display method present in the parent class using the child class reference. So we will move on to multi-level inheritance. Here the multi-level inheritance goes like this. This is the base class, and this is the derived class. Again this derived class acts as a base class, and again we can derive it from this base class. So here the hierarchy goes. The main base class is called the grandparent, and the derived class of this base class is called parent, and again the derived class of this base class is called child. So the last one is child. So this is the hierarchy in multi-level inheritance. We can see I have wrote a class called grandparent, and then a simple method, display method, gdisplay, and then I printed something. Again I wrote a class for parent, and to inherit in inheritance we have to write the parent class name in the parenthesis of child class. So this is the child class, and this is the parent class here, and again I wrote some method and I printed parent in this, and we have class child parent. We have again a child class, and it is inheriting from its parent. So it again has some method c display, and again I printed something. So in this scenario, creating a object for child class is equivalent to creating object for parent class and also grandparent class. So we can access methods present in a grandparent and parent using this object reference created for this child. So we can use c1.jdisplay to access the method present in the parent class. And then we will move on to hierarchical inheritance. In hierarchical inheritance we have one base class and two derived class. So this derived class will be derived from this base class, and this base derived class will be derived from this base class. So we will see the example. So here it is the parent class p display, and class name is parent, and definition p display, and we have included a method called p display and class child1 parent. We again have again created a child class child2 definition, and we wrote some method and printed child2 in this. Hierarchical inheritance, we have to create two different objects for two different derived class. As we have two different derived classes and only one base class, we have to create object for these two. If we create object only for child1 and try to access child2 properties, it is not possible. We can access child1 parent properties using child1 reference, and we cannot access child2 properties using child1 reference, and vice versa. By using child2 reference we can access parent properties but not child1 properties. This is how hierarchical inheritance works. So this is multiple inheritance. These are two different base classes, base class 1 and base class 2, and a single child class can derive the properties from the two different base classes. So let us see example for this multiple inheritance. So this I am writing this class name as father, and a method inside it, and again I have wrote a class name called mother and a method inside it. To inherit properties we have to write a child class name. I am writing the class name as child. You can use any class name here, and I wrote the child as a class name, and it is deriving its properties from both of the classes, like both the father and mother classes. So it again has its own methods, and if we create reference for this child, it is equivalent to creating the reference of these two classes. So using this child reference we can access properties from both the classes father and mother. So this is how inheritance works in Python. So we will discuss the later topics in the next video. Thank you for watching our videos. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel.